Welcome to Art of Law. I've just done a little joint video with Dan, which you may or may not have seen by the time this goes up. But while I've actually got Dan pinned there, I said, oh, quick, help me out on a video. The topic is, it's a Supreme Court case, not our Supreme Court, the American one. And the issue is this, and I think you might find this interesting. I hope so. Vaguely interesting. That's all we promise. There is a law, proposed law, that says that anybody who censors, blocks, or removes a comment on social media, if the person who posted the comment requests it, they have to give a full explanation as to why they removed it. And it also basically puts potential liability there for people who remove comments for breaching people's First Amendment rights. Now, an amicus brief has been submitted. An amicus brief is something where people say, I'm not a party to this case, but it affects me in some way. I would like you to consider this argument. And the amicus brief is from the moderators of the people who moderate on Reddit, a politics sort of channel or subreddit, whatever they call them, but also the one about the Supreme Court itself. Now, their primary argument is, well, this is just the private sector. Reddit is a private company. We are just moderating a thread. The First Amendment is stopping the government from, censoring you. Although we do get into what we call vertical or horizontal effects. In other words, the mere fact something is being done outside the government sort of oversight responsibilities, it might be they've got to pressurize somebody or introduce laws to protect your free speech. I mean, that crops up a lot in the US if there's any sort of public funding. That's why schools have to, have free speech policies. But the interesting thing is, that very much, there is a dilemma there, because over here, while generally you are protected from liability for comments posted on, say, your website, if somebody asks you to take it down, say it's defamatory, and they put you on notice, then if you don't take it down and it turns out to be defamatory or otherwise actionable, then you're in the frame. So over here, the pressure is you must take it down if asked. Whereas in the US, the argument is, no, if you do take something down, you have to explain yourself to the person. But what's interesting is that was their sort of primary argument. But because they moderate the US Supreme Court Reddit, they've just exhibited page after page after page of posts they had to delete, which were not just abusive about the judges. There were death threats. There were things posting their addresses of the judges themselves and their families. And they were saying, seriously, are you saying that just so we don't get into any legal liability, you want us to leave all this up? But it's a great excuse, and some lawyer is going to be able to stand there, hopefully, in front of the Supreme Court and say, I now turn you to page 372 of the bundle, where we'll see here a list of, somebody disparaging all your personal characteristics and accusing you of the following. Oh, and by the way, that's your mobile phone number. So I think it's going to be interesting. But Dan, as somebody with billions and billions of followers who gets hundreds of thousands of comments,
I certainly get hundreds and thousands of comments. Yes, I can attest to that.
Yeah, I'm just curious as to what you think about this and the sort of the difference between the English approach. You're covered unless somebody tells you otherwise, in which case take it down, as opposed to this proposed American thing, which is no, you have to leave it up, or you will be sued by the person who posted it.
I think that's really onerous on anybody, either the platform owner or the content creator, because as someone who does get thousands of comments, it's funny when I get a comment that says, why didn't you respond to my comment? And it's because those that I do respond to, I think, without bigging myself up at all, I think they're lucky, because it's lucky that I see that particular comment out of the thousands that I get and the hundreds of emails that I get. But therefore, if I were to find something that I just want to take down, because for me, if I think something is defamatory, insulting, or worse, threatening, of which I've had all of the above, my standard response is either ignore it or delete it. But then if I delete it and I have to provide a reason why I've deleted it, else be sued for it, but otherwise leave it up, as you say, I think that's particularly onerous, because that then means I have to stand there and stand for any defamatory, derogatory, or threats or any other kind of comments that are up there. Otherwise, create myself a huge burden, because if you multiply this out by the thousands of comments, now I don't go around deleting thousands of them, but if I see them, or any of my team, I've got a team of moderators that kindly help out if they see anything like that, they delete them, then that actually raises another question. What about vicarious liability for any moderator that I've got on the platform? Because I think you're a moderator on my channel, Al. If you're not, I'll make you a moderator, but I'm sure you are. Moderators, am I vicariously liable for them removing a comment without providing a reason else be sued? I think it's particularly onerous. And the interesting point as well is that you say it's a private platform, because obviously everything like this is supposed to prevent the government from interfering in your private affairs, right to free speech and into interpersonal legal disputes and so on. But for private platforms, you sign up, you agree to the terms, you use it, you post content, you agree to the terms. If those terms agree, as we discussed in our Tesco video, which we've just done, you enter a place, you at least, at the very least, impliedly accept the general terms in the round, however much attention you've paid to those, to coin the phrase of a judge in a case that I once won, where the opposing litigant in person assured me that the judge wasn't going to have any of it because he hadn't read the terms. Not quite how it works. Whether you read the terms or not, they're generally binding on you. So if you sign up on a platform, whether to watch it or to create on it, you're agreeing to those terms, and they should be private terms with a private platform, and the platform should be able to decide how it's run. And it was one of the few times that I've really stood against what Elon Musk has said, when he said, he was toying with the idea of preventing the ability to block people on X, to pay him respect and call it what he now calls it. Because if you can't block somebody who is definitively harassing you, I mean, yes, you can mute them so it doesn't pop up in your feed, but that's just as bad, surely, because it's there. And you could go and look at it. You probably won't, but you could. It's there. Other people can see it. Surely you should be able to block and remove those things. And so X is a bit different than YouTube in that sense, in that you can't delete other people's comments. You can on YouTube. I personally like the fact that you can remove these things. I have people making all sorts of comments. So yeah, I'm against that. I think you should be able to remove them. I think it's too onerous otherwise.
But the Supreme Court have already held that elected officials can't block people on Twitter or prohibit them from seeing their timelines. That's a sort of First Amendment thing, but they're saying people have their First Amendment right to comment on anything you post on social media. So already there's the stepping into the sort of public-private domain. But yeah, I mean, in the US, they tend to take this, what we call, vertical effect. In other words, yes, it's not the government directly that's doing this, it's the private sector, but the government should be regulating the private sector. I mean, we do have some sort of issues about vertical and horizontal effect here with certain rights we have under the ECHR. If there's systemic bullying or abuse or discrimination in the private sector, you can actually sue the government and say, well, you are not doing things to protect my rights. I mean, this is back to, inquests, Article 2 inquests. The reason that we have Article 2 inquests is we're not saying that the government is responsible for what happened directly, but we are saying the government should have put in either laws or a system to make sure what happened didn't happen. So yeah, I mean, there's not this whole private-public thing is it's not an unusual dilemma. But I just thought people again might find that vaguely interesting because presumably people watching this on social media comment on social media, and if you're running your own little blogs or websites or channels, what do you think about this? Because of course, it doesn't. This is theoretically only American law. Would only apply in the US. But if your platform reaches the US, are you going to get people saying, well, I know you're based in the UK, but I want to sue you in the US based on, our law.
Which they
So,
technically
again,
could. Yeah.
Yeah, can do.
Yeah, and but the final interesting point that I would note is the regulated sector versus non-regulated sectors, which obviously include private companies, probably for the most part, but there are certain sort of criteria that requires and really mandates that something ought to be regulated. Anything that has a profound effect on your life, that if someone is advising you and they advise you badly, and therefore not just you can sue them for negligence, but your whole life is turned upside down because it was bad advice or maladministered, then obviously those areas should be regulated. Law is one of them. Medicine is one of them. That's because your legal affairs, your medical affairs, and your monetary affairs are the big three, aren't they? I'm probably missing a few, but those are the big three, and of which I've been involved in all but the medicine variety. No plans to become a doctor, much to my dear wife's pleasing response with my changing careers. But no, those areas that ought to be regulated are okay. I think we could all accept that anything legal, anything medical, anything monetary, financial advice, investment advice, retirement advice, planning advice, all those sorts of things, because you are going to rely on those people to tell you what is the best thing I should do. You've got some sort of medical ailment. What is it? How do I fix it? What do we do about it? You should be able to rely on the person giving you that advice, same as all the others. Free speech, I'm not sure that comes anywhere near that, does it?
Well, the US government's argument is the internet runs over infrastructure that is some of which is provided by the government, by the public sector, and that is true. Quite a lot of the internet does utilize government resources. So their argument is, well, sorry, if we're paying for this and you're using some of our systems, we get a say in what you do on those systems. So I mean, I don't think we'll get a judgment on this or even any arguments until like next, in the new year. Because I've only just seen that amicus brief being submitted. But again, like I say, I just thought it was an interesting one. Because of the underlying legal issues, but I just like the way they did it, because are the judges going to say, no, I think it's perfectly right. People should be allowed to post death threats against me and my family and put my address up there. So, let's just see.
Exactly. All very strange, but hope that was useful. Please do make sure you subscribe. I know I'm on your channel, but it's a habit of mine because you sometimes forget. Make sure you subscribe.
You're better at this than me, because you got me to change my thumbnail from sort of arty, because I was doing all my artist thing and going, oh, this is perfect. I've got this framing, and lots of people going, what is that meant to represent? It's like it's beautiful. It's a landscape. It's a tree, and it's like a standing stone, and people are going, it means nothing. So what I need to do is, because it is true that all these thumbnails work, I need to just pull some sort of faces. I'll just do that now for everybody to generate some thumbnail material.
Let's do a shocked face, shall we?
Shocked face.
There we
Odd
go.
face.
There we go. Yeah.
Actually, I should just do a bewildered face, because that's my state of being. But no, thank you to everybody who looks like we are just about to hit the 10K.
Yeah.
As much as I personally wasn't particularly bothered about that, I can see actually why it's really good. So I do very much appreciate when people.
It does help. In all seriousness, it does help. Numbers do generate numbers, and what we do here is genuinely try to demystify law and help people understand it, which is why I was so sort of pleased to assist Alan, getting this set up. So thank you to everyone that subscribed. Please do hit that subscribe button so that we do, in all seriousness, get over 10K and beyond. You'll be 100K before we know it. And indeed. And with that, we thank you for watching, and we shall see you next time.
See you next time.